Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts, and today I've got a very special video for those of you who are fans of Mass Effect Andromeda. So, this video actually was kind of spawned by my good viewer friend, Mikey. Say hi, Mikey.
Hey everybody, how are we all doing today?
You might have seen Mikey in a few of my other videos, mostly my open mic hangouts for Mass Effect Andromeda. Um, but Mikey, he just kind of emailed me one day and was like, "Hey, Hark, I've got a wild and crazy idea. Since you started playing Mass Effect Andromeda, well, why don't you explain what the idea is? I don't want to put words in your mouth. What was the idea that you brought up, Mikey?"
So my idea was, hey, since we recently started playing Andromeda, why don't we get our initial reactions out there? Instead of like you've been doing reaction videos recently about trailers and stuff. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we do a reaction video to 20 or 30 hours of Mass Effect? Because
Yeah,
it's a big enough game. 23 hours is a long time.
yeah, yeah. So Mikey's clocked about 30 hours, he said, roughly, of the game. I haven't quite clocked that much, just because unfortunately life is very busy right now for me. Life is happening a lot. But I have been able to clock, I wouldn't say quite 20 hours yet. But we wanted to sort of give our thoughts for the beginning of the game. And I will tell you guys up front. So, because as you all know, I'm very sensitive to spoilers and making sure I don't spoil anything for you. So, I will tell you that the content that we're going to cover is going to be without, again, I'll be very vague. It will be the prologue. It will be it'll cover all through the first main planet that you go to, and then the next main planet that you go to after that. And then we'll pretty much stop the content there. So if that sounds about right and you feel that you can watch this without being spoiled, knowing that, then please, by all means, feel free to watch and hang out with us. Otherwise, feel free to watch this later once you feel that you are safe. Again, the prologue all through the first planet you go to, and then the next main planet after that in the main storyline. Hopefully, that's vague enough, but descriptive enough for everybody who knows what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So, Mikey and I, we're just going to start talking about our thoughts with I guess, the plot or the story or the narrative of the game, starting with the prologue. So, I've been talking a lot, Mikey. Do you want to give some of your thoughts on the
Okay,
prologue
so
stuff?
sure, yeah. Initially, we all kind of wake up on the Hyperion, no matter which gender you pick. You wake up initially, either as male or female. Wake up, cup of coffee, medical, pretty standard what you'd imagine. You just was asleep for 600 years. Here, have some caffeine. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I find it hard to get up after 4 hours of sleep. Never mind 600 years.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we all wake up, and there's a bit of a hitch in the problem in the things here. First of all, we meet Liam. Liam is sitting here getting his medical. Um, and the gravity kind of stops working after we hit a patch of scourge, and the
Right.
scourge basically malfunction, loses gravity. Cora gets the gravity back on, and we discover that our sister has had her cryopod has malfunctioned.
Or our
You can
sibling.
decide. Okay, so it was
Let,
my sister.
yes.
Mhm.
Trying
Um,
trying to be politically correct here. But go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm trying to be PC as possible, but
Yes, yes, yes.
basically, if you want, I thought that was kind of hilarious how it's optional to check on your sister after
Yes.
having possibly a life-ending accident. You're like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
then
Go
I
ahead.
thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. It just kind of made me chuckle a little on the inside.
Well, I'm wondering. I'm wondering though if that's going to matter. Like, if you completely ignore your sibling, if you never check on your sibling, because it seems like there are different spots in the storyline where you can check on your sibling. So I'm wondering. I'm half hoping actually that there is a difference to or that matters in some way, whether or not you actually continuously check on your sibling. But
And if like at the end of the day they were like, "Why didn't you check on me at all?" and you're like, "Man, busy being a Pathfinder."
yeah,
Uh, the Golden Wars were a flop.
yeah,
You kind of do have a decent reason for never checking on your sibling, and the fact that your father's dead. There's no Golden Worlds, and everything's gone to shit.
yes. So yeah, so you you meet your dad, you meet Captain uh,
Done,
what's
done. I think.
Captain Dunn, yes, and then
Yeah.
you know Habitat 7 wasn't quite what the brochures were saying on their way to the initiative. Now, granted, it's been 600 some years, so I'm actually not that shocked. I'm actually surprised that they were surprised that can happen in
Yeah.
600 years. I'm like,
Like,
yeah, that can definitely happen in 600 years.
yeah, I was
Um,
like, I wouldn't have been surprised if there was a new culture there, if there was a new species there, or if it
right,
changed in some sort of, global
right,
disaster or something, and now it's
exactly.
barren. That could totally happen in 600 years.
Yeah.
But then you meet your dad, who's got one of the sexiest voices in Mass Effect history. God,
you
whoever
were
voices him, yes.
oh wow. So wait, Mikey, were you crushing on your dad?
I mean, I was crushing on my dad's voice. Okay,
It's
okay,
okay.
let's get this entirely straight. Okay, well, not straight,
Or
but you know
not
what I
so
mean.
straight. I mean, no, to be quite
Yeah,
honest,
but
like
like
if I
I thought,
played
like,
to be quite honest, if I was playing a female writer, I'd be crushing on my brother. The default Scott writer,
like
I'd be crushing on my brother if
Mod Rider
I
is pretty damn good looking. I won't lie.
Yes.
But yeah, like Dad Rider is pretty good looking, and he's also got a really nice voice. You can't deny that fact.
Yeah. I
Also, I did notice that I changed my character's eye color to match my own. I don't know,
yeah.
the camera probably can't pick it up, but the inside of my eye is blue while the outside is green. And I changed
Mm.
that to match my rider, and my dad rider had the same
He
eyes as
does.
my male rider, which is pretty damn cool. I like that.
Yes. Yes, yes. I believe he automatically has your eye color and there are I think his skin tone I believe is supposed to match the
Ah,
skin tone of your specific writer. And then
mm,
the overall facial structure is based on which preset you started with if you customize your character. So there's a so
okay.
there's one yeah, there's one face specifically for the default writer, and then I don't remember if there were like 6 or 7 presets. But
I
however
think
many
there's eight.
presets there's 8 presets, so there's eight
Eight sounds
different
right to me.
okay,
Yeah.
so there's 8 different faces for Alec Ryder based on whether or not you
Mm.
started with such and such a face, and that's how that worked.
So there's 16 then, because there's male and female, which I imagine switches to 16 total faces for Alec Rider.
No. There's actually 8 because the preset for male or female maps
Oh,
to the same Alec Ryder, maps
also
to
the
the
character. Oh
same.
yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
So
But yeah,
regardless of
you regardless of gender, it's the same kind of face. But yeah, I get where you're going there.
yeah,
But yeah, you
yeah,
meet your dad. He says we got to go down there anyway, basically, and the captain's just like, no, we should go find the Nexus. But but we all decide,
hmm
hey, let's just go down there. Let's get this
yeah,
sorted. And
because
you can
plot.
side with your dad, or you can side with the captain, depending. And that's actually a decision you make. You can side and
Yeah,
say with the captain, "Hey, we should go find the Nexus, get some reinforcements, and figure out what the hell's going on," or we
yeah,
can go down to the planet,
yeah,
which is something you decide as a character, which I thought was interesting too. You can go
yeah,
against or with your father, but either way, you go
yeah.
down to the planet.
It seems like in
Uh,
general there's a bunch of dialogue choices that define your relationship with your father. Um, it definitely
there's
did with
also a really
mine.
funny little thing. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm
There's a really funny little thing as well. That's I think the game internally tracks which of the 4 decisions you make: professional, casual,
Yes.
emotional, logical. And if you go into the psychological profile that Sam has for you, it'll describe you sort of. If you have 4 ties, it'll give you 4 different blocks of text, which is pretty
Yes.
cool.
I did notice that. I do check that later on in my Let's Play. Yes.
It's a pretty cool little thing that's been invested in the game, and I like that. It's cool.
hmm
It gives my character more of a an individual kind of thing. Because if you mix and match, you get little different
Yeah.
X blocks, which is cool.
I love that.
And then you and Liam and everyone meet up, and you all go down to the planet's surface, and shit goes sideways yet again.
Yep. And then
Coast Bluff.
there's a giant rift in the sky. There's a giant Dragon Age Inquisition rift in the sky, and
One just
pretty
like
much habit.
looks. I
Yeah,
was I was really surprised that there wasn't at least one instance of everyone just looking at the camera and just going
yes,
shrugging like
yes. Then the fact that Habitat 7 looks like the Fade, and Cora was just talking about like running into dragons, on
yeah.
Habitat
And then
7.
there's the dragons that you see floating past and all that kind of
Yeah,
thing. It's
and I'm
like
like, did they do this on purpose? I have the feeling that they did that on purpose, but I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure the whole idea of the initial like prologue in Habitat 7 was a reference to Dragon Age Inquisition. It's
Yeah,
entirely.
that's kind of
But
awesome if
hey,
they did that
yeah.
purposely.
Then
I
you
would
do a
love
bit
if that was
of
true.
you have a bit of a conversation with Liam. You do a bit of parkour, and next thing you know, you're using these on our good friends the Ket.
Yes. Oh yes. Show everybody the fact that it flips. It also flips closed or open.
It does both. It flips
Yes.
closed and
Yes.
flips open. So
That
it's
is
entirely
amazing.
It's actually advertised as a cosplay weapon. You're meant to use it in a cosplay, but unfortunately, all I have is a jacket. So
That is
maybe one
amazing.
day I'll be Commander Shepard. But yeah, it's a pretty cool little thing. I like it.
I'm
It has a
definitely
little
going to have to.
stand and everything.
That's pretty awesome. I definitely am going to have to consider getting one just because my rider is more engineer than anything else. So that's pretty awesome.
He starts stabbing people in the face with Omni Blades. It's all good
Yes.
here. But yeah, you do a bit of parkour and you meet the Kettlers first time who are trying to kill an Andromeda initiative individual
Yeah.
by the name of Fisher, I believe is his name. Uh, Team Heavy is what he was initially meant to be, and you see him there and he's about to be shot, so you shoot first.
Yeah.
And that's your initial contact with the Ket.
Yes. And I like that your Skylar can recognize that we are the outsiders. We are the, if you want to, interpret it that way, the invaders
As I
who
put
are
it, we
coming
are the
in.
Europeans.
Yes, we're the ones coming in armed to the teeth. And I mean, I don't blame the Ket for shooting first and asking questions later because, who the heck are we coming onto this planet? Now, granted, it's not their native planet that we find out later on, but still, they were there
Yeah,
first, and
they were there
they were
first.
in
We
this
just turned up and we're
galaxy.
like, hey, hi. We kind of
Yeah,
want this planet for ourselves.
yeah,
We'd like to stay here.
yeah. So I am glad that they are addressing the fact that we are we are not necessarily the innocent people that are just coming in. I mean, we're trying to be the innocent people who are
Yeah,
coming in, but it's
we're
not
not.
necessarily perceived that way, and that's not necessarily a that's actually a totally understanding and
Mm,
understandable thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And as far as we know, we're also not the good guys. We're technically we're trying to be the good guys in a lot of cases, but we're
Yeah.
not necessarily the good guys in everyone's eyes.
Yes. Exactly. And I hope that
We're
continues to
just
come
another
into
invading
play.
force. Just
I
stone
hope
people. We're just another invading force alongside the cat.
yes, and I hope
We're
that
these
we
two giant aliens fighting a galaxy.
and I hope that that comes into play more as the story progresses. So
Oh, it does. That's just a quick little hint for you. It does.
okay, fair enough.
It does.
Um,
But yeah, from there you go to Habitat 7. You meet up with Cora and Liam, who are your two initial squad mates. A a what would you say he is? He's an engineer sentinel hybrid. I'd
mhm,
say he is because he uses a lot of tech and he uses a lot of combat. So he's kind of, but he's also very tanky. So he's very sentinel engineer soldier kind of thing.
mhm,
Um, Across the planet, you find interesting things. You murder those interesting things,
mhm.
and then you meet up with your father, the
Yeah,
Pathfinder.
yep,
And from there, you guys decide to go investigate this rift. You can take over
yep.
from here, Hack.
You go and investigate this rift and realize that it basically is this massive energy or something, some phenomenon that's causing Habitat Seven's environment to be as violent as it is. One of the
Mm.
places that I found as I was exploring on the planet was, some plant life. I did find a tree or something, but it was protected in a cave or something, and that's why it was away from the rift, I guess. So there was some evidence to show that this place did used to, support more life than it is now. And
It used to
eventually
be a
they,
tropical, getaway place that the
I
initial
believe so.
person who woke you up wanted.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
used to be
exactly.
that, but now it's not so much anymore.
But now it's not so much anymore. And then um, they find, of course, all of these like bizarre alien technological like structures, I guess. And I think with Alec Ryder, they determined that these alien structures that probably are not necessarily were probably not built by the Ket, um, are the things that's causing this disturbance. And so Alec Ryder and the rest of the initiative, I guess, decide to plow their way through these Ket forces to get to whatever the main panel is to control the storm. There's a nice scene where Alec Ryder uses his Omni tool, I think, to cause some sort of malfunction on the lightning rods or whatever the rods were that was causing the storm to be controlled where the Ket
Well, he
specifically
blows them
were.
up. He just blows them
Yes,
up.
blows them up.
Good old fashioned
Um,
America.
yes, and it's during that little sequence, that fighting sequence, that you're introduced to Sam's ability to basically transform your dad into an engineer, to a sentinel, to a
Biotic.
biotic,
Yeah,
to whatever. Those are
it's
the different
awesome.
profiles. Yeah,
Watching your dad go to work in those moments is just so cool. You get to see
yeah.
it before you become. It's so
Before you
cool. I
become
love
it.
it.
Yeah, that's a neat way for them to introduce that concept.
And
Um,
Ryder is just like, Dad, how the hell? And he just responds, a little help from Sam. That's all he gives you initially. It's just like,
yeah,
it's just a little help from Sam. That's all he says.
right.
It's so cool. I love it. Your dad is
Um,
such a badass.
yes, and then you end up activating something that causes the storm to go away, and then really bad stuff happens because you end up falling. I think something happens that causes you to fall and break your helmet again. I guess it was so damaged that you couldn't use your Omni tool to fix it anymore.
From what I remember about the initial thing of that was that like this box hit Ryder in the face. It like
Yeah,
didn't just crack his helmet visor; it
it just
destroyed it
completely,
entirely.
you completely,
So
yeah,
it's like, yeah, initially it was just a small crack that he could have the Omni tool
yeah.
fix, but this one, he like helmet's literally non-functional anymore. It's just
Still, yeah, still,
big visor.
I'd still like to believe that, well, that I don't know, maybe he didn't have enough Omni gel. I'd still like to believe that a Omni tool can completely
Yeah, like
replace, but
yeah, like it wouldn't be uncommon, but maybe it was just a case of he didn't think of it in time, or it was a case of they wouldn't have had time to fabricate it
yeah, maybe
because
maybe
it
just there
was taking
wasn't
a
enough
bit of time,
time.
maybe. Yeah,
So,
and so
so
so Papa Ryder decides, essentially,
yeah,
takes off his
right,
helmet, puts it on his son or his
yes,
daughter, and dies on Habitat 7.
right. Which, like, in my opinion, was very predictable. I kind of saw
It
that
was
coming
predictable. Yeah, it was predictable,
because,
but it was done nice though. Like it wasn't a case of
yes,
he wasn't
yes,
shot by something. He saved his son or his daughter from dying,
right,
which is a very
exactly.
way to go.
Yes,
It's a nice way to go out at the very least. It wasn't a
yes,
case of he was killed in combat or his son or daughter didn't watch him bleed out. They saved his life. So
right. Yes, I agree. It was predictable, and I felt that it would be difficult for the writers to come up with a better way to explain why your writer all of a sudden becomes the Pathfinder, even though your dad's the Pathfinder. Um,
mm,
I thought it would have been really neat if your dad ended up disappearing somehow, or he looked like he died, and then later on the story you find out somehow he's in cahoots with the big bad. I don't know, something bizarre like that. But
like a
um,
little bit like Kenny from season 2 of The Walking Dead. He's like, he's alive. How? I don't fucking
yeah,
know, but he's
uh,
alive.
Lazarus Project. I mean, I don't know, but
Maybe
but no, no, it was no, it's fine. Um,
it's a decent way to go out at the very least.
it's
It's
a
an
decent way to
emotional
go out.
attachment.
Yes. And then immediately after Ryder wakes up, I mean, you have the whole sequence that looked very similar to the Lazarus Project. I
Mm.
don't know how
You're being brought
right.
to you're being like, stretched around in a gurney, and it's like, oh, like
Yeah,
he's dying. Save him. He needs this. He needs that. And
yeah,
Cora, I think, grabs your hand as you raise it and puts it back in your chest or something. Like you raise
yeah.
up
I
your hand
remember
to take
that.
someone's hand. Full scene to me. He's like, I'm dying. Hold my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
And then Sam just goes, "You were clinically dead for 22 seconds." I'm like, "Thanks, Sam. You're amazing. Thanks for that. I need to know that."
That's the part that I was unsure about because he said that you're clinically dead for 22 seconds, and yet when they were doing the zoom in close up of your organs and the blood vessels and the nodes or whatever, it looked
Mm.
like they had decayed quite a bit, like they were black. So
Well, that tends to happen very quickly, in what I understand in brain matter. Brain matter is the first thing to go. So,
so maybe
could be that.
that might be accurate then. It just seemed like, oh wow, like if you were dead for 22 seconds, I'm like wow,
Also,
but
science,
also science, or maybe
magic,
that's or maybe that's just Sam like basically rewriting his
genetic code, and maybe.
biological
Yeah.
genetic code, and by doing that he has to like kill cells and rebuild cells.
Well,
I don't
he
know how
does every
that
time he
works.
changes you from being like a non-biotic to a
it
biotic, because being a
it
biotic means you
it,
need a genetic
it,
code to do that.
it was sci-fi high candy. It's sci-fi candy, sci-fi eye candy.
It's sci-fi
That's very much
candy.
what it was.
Yeah,
Sci-fi candy.
that's
So
that's Scott Ryder. Scott Ryder is sci-fi high candy.
yes, Scott Ryder is sci-fi eye candy. Yes. um, and then from what I
So is
mentioned
Retro. We'll get
earlier,
to that later.
we'll get to that later. From what I said earlier, you get to talk about more about your relationship with your dad. I ended up
Hmm.
choosing the whole, well, we weren't really close. And I didn't mean for that to sound insensitive. I meant that for that to be like a, gosh, I mean,
Oh, we weren't really all that close, and I really
we
wish we
weren't.
had been. That kind of thing.
Yes, I wish we had been, or he died. He died before we had a chance to become closer.
Also,
That's
a funny little thing, right? You mentioned in your first episode of Andromeda that you thought that uh, Sarah Ryder were young. They're 22 years of age.
yeah,
Scott and Sarah Ryder were both born in 2163, which means they're 22 years of age, which means they are young.
right.
While
Which means what? Which means
Dad Ryder's nearly 100 years old, I think. Actually, he's exactly 700 years old if you don't include the stasis, because he was born in 2129, I think is what it was. It says in like his little bio thing. So
oh wow,
Dad Ryder's actually exactly 700 years old. It's pretty cool.
he's actually 100 years old. Wow, he's pretty good for
Yeah, he's
100 years old.
pretty good for 100, but like most humans in this setting, I believe, live to 150 due to medical
Yeah,
science and stuff like that.
I
So
think yes, yes,
technically he's middle aged, technically.
correct,
But yeah,
correct.
if you're looking for something like that, yeah, Scott Ryder and Sarah
Yeah,
Ryder are 22 exactly. So you're looking at fairly young people.
they're in the matron age, right now, the matron stage. So, um, but yeah. So before we continue on, I wanted to pull back and just talk about the prologue as a whole.
Yeah.
Before we go past that, so what were your thoughts on the prologue as a whole and how all of everything was presented?
So generally, I liked it because I felt like it drew me in. Excuse me. It gave me a very emotional attachment. My sister has been put in a coma. My dad's dead. I'm now in charge of the entire Andromeda initiative as a human pathfinder. I have this thing in my head that's an AI, but it's also part of me now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's just so much information, and it's just like, yeah, this feels like like Mass Effect 1, where you're all of a sudden just thrown into
Mm-hmm.
being. You're looking for like the Reapers. There's just so much done. There's so much done in the first several hours, like the first 2 to 3 hours of this game. It is
Mm-hmm.
a bit overwhelming in the sense that there's a lot of sensory input and there's a lot of information thrown at you. Very interesting, very intriguing. It made me want to play more. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was that too.
Yeah. I agree as well. I liked all of the what they did with family, all of the emotional stuff they did with family. I thought that they introduced Cora and Liam well. Um, I thought that they did a pretty good job of teaching you the ropes of the game itself. Figuring out all the controls. How do you use your jump jet? How do you use your parkour skills? things of that nature. So I thought that the epilogue was a good, or prologue, excuse me, was a very good tutorial. Um, I, including other things like non-combative things like using your scanner. That was a really neat little thing that they put in to teach you how to use that. Um, the character creator, I was happy with. I felt that it was it reminded me a lot of the Dragon Age Inquisition character creator. Um,
Mm.
I
Now,
liked.
maybe it's just me, but I felt like the character creator was actually a bit lackluster when compared to Inquisition.
You
Unlike in
probably are
Inquisition,
right.
you still have a slider. You don't have like the square thing where you can move about and
Yes,
find your exact positioning. Instead, you
I
have
believe.
preset sliders. So
Yes.
I thought it was a bit of a step back in a way, but you know, you kind of have to go with what you know, and in
Yeah.
Mass Effect, that's pretty much what they know.
To, and to be fair, I think it would definitely was a step forward from Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, definitely, especially with all the hair colors. My God, the hair colors.
Yes. I'm glad that we have the different hair colors.
Yeah.
And I also thought that they added some really cool makeup styles. Like if you looked at the different makeup eyeshadows, like there were some really interesting
Actually,
things you could
I
do with
have two
makeup.
bones. I have two bones to pick with you, BioWare. If you're actually watching this, or anyone else watching this will know. One, there's no long beards. There's a single full face beard, and it doesn't even have the little bit here on your chin. It literally just stops right there, and it looks awful. But I had to use it for my writer because I wanted him to have a beard. Two,
Yeah.
the tattoos look disgusting. Please stop.
Oh,
I love tattoos, but those tattoos look so
oh.
disgusting on his neck and on his face. Please stop.
The beard I can understand. I think somebody might try to argue, well, if there's too much beard, you wouldn't be able to fit in your helmet. And to that I would respond, do you see
Liam's
Liam's
hair.
hair?
Liam's
Like if
hair.
Liam can fit in that helmet, you can fit a beard in that helmet. Just saying.
Yeah.
But
Like you could
yeah,
fit like a decently long beard in that helmet if Liam could fit
hmm,
his hair in it. And at the same
yeah,
time, you notice that the helmet and the face part has like this pretty big gap in it, so you could pretty much do it fairly easily,
yeah,
all things
yeah.
considered. But anyway, those are the two major things that I found that I didn't like about the character creator: the beards and the tattoos. The tattoos
Hmm.
just look kind of tacky. They look sort of like they look very Jimmy Vega, and I didn't like Jimmy Vega's neck tattoos. I didn't mind the rest of them, but
Oh,
one of his neck looked very
yeah.
bleh. Like it just kind of goes out to about here and it goes up to like your
Hmm.
chin, and I'm like, no, all the face ones look really ugly. The scars are the same. All the scars don't look they look like scars, but they don't look like the kind of scars I'd expect a soldier to have. They look like
Mm.
teeth marks and claw
Oh,
marks.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
That's true. That's a good point.
you know,
Um,
though I wanted my writer to have tattoos, so I gave him a tattoo, and I don't really mind it as much anymore. But at the same time, I think it would have been better if BioWare would have given us more decisions for tattoos, especially if on the positioning. I would have liked to give my writer something on his arm, maybe, something for his mom, something like that.
yeah, that would be
I would have
cool.
loved to been. I would love if later on in the game they gave you the options to get more tattoos.
Yeah.
Like if you had the option to get something done on your arm for your dad and for your mom, maybe your sister if she doesn't make it, that kind of thing. Kind of cool.
No,
That's
I
just me.
totally agree with you. That's pretty neat. I'm not a big tattoo person at all,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
it probably doesn't affect me as much because I don't put tattoos on my characters unless I absolutely have to.
Mm.
So, um,
I mean, through the first trilogy of Mass Effect, that was the one thing I didn't like about the whole thing. The only way to get a tattoo is to romance Jack through the entire game and have the Citadel DLC. Because in the third DLC, she gives you a
mm,
tattoo and says, "Now everyone knows you're mine." And I'm like, "Oh, Jack,
oh, got it,
to me,
got it.
don't do it to me."
Hmm.
It's a really cool little tattoo that he gets on like his back of his shoulder. I suggest googling it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty nice
Okay,
looking.
I'll check that out. Um,
But yeah, otherwise, I just thought the character creator was kind of lackluster. But I made do.
yeah. Um,
But yeah, I genuinely thought that the prologue and everything up to the Nexus was fairly interesting. The Nomad, well, actually, you don't get the Nomad, or you don't
you
get
don't
the
get the Nomad
Tempest.
yet.
You don't get the
Yeah,
Nomad or the Tempest until after the Nexus.
yeah,
So
yeah. I I was wondering about the whether or not the random characters that get killed on Habitat 7, if those were determinant, and I thought it turns out that the one guy that died on me because the
oh,
kid,
what's his name?
like, I feel like it might be, was it Fisher?
No,
No,
Fisher lived.
Kirkland. It was
Kirkland, yeah, the Kirkland's the
Kirkland.
second guy who got shot.
Yes. So I was hoping that that was determinate, but apparently Kirkland dies regardless of what you do. So I was a little disappointed by
Uh,
that because it wasn't like he would be a character that you would end up seeing really all that often after the fact. So they easily could have made that determinate.
you
But
don't see Fisher or Greer afterwards. Literally, you see them for like maybe 5 minutes and have a quick chat with them about, oh,
you
Kirkland's
can
dead and
chat with
this.
them. Yeah, you can chat with them.
It's basically Kirkland died. I'm sorry. That's basically the entire
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. So that's one tiny critique that I would have changed just to add a little bit of
Yeah, like
in
maybe if you were
this.
like maybe if you were an infiltrator and you use like a sniper rifle and you blew off one of the guys would
Mm-hmm.
shoot him in the head, and he just
Mm-hmm.
stuck behind something, which is perfectly reasonable in that case. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's entirely understandable that BioWare didn't have all the time in the world to do everything that they wanted, and they wanted to give you a reason to hate the cat, and they shot someone for it. So
Yeah. No, that's true. That is true.
better than kill some random NPC that you knew for 5 minutes instead of killing like a character that they built up for 20 or 30 hours and made it
Mm-hmm.
a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I preferred it
No,
that way
right.
over killing off, say, I don't know, maybe if you made a decision, maybe like they put in a decision later on that it's Liam or Cora, and it's like, yeah, now I feel like I've been cheated. I should turn
Yeah.
around here.
Yeah. Um.
You know, now we
Anything
sent out
else?
two squads. Um, when it comes to the prologue, I liked Alec Ryder. Alec Ryder's acting was very well done. I was
Mm-hmm.
very sad to see him go, in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to hear him as much anymore. There'll be no fatherly figure. I grew up without a dad, so I know what that's like.
Mm.
Wise though, I genuinely do believe that they did a great job of bringing me into the lore again, showing me this
Yes.
new galaxy, introducing
Yeah.
me to new mechanics in the boost jet avoid and the jump jet
Mm-hmm.
and the scanner. You're not a trained soldier like Shepard was. You're just
Yeah.
you're a scientist. You're an explorer. You're
Yes.
Christopher Columbus. You're not a
Yes.
Spartacus.
In general, I love that aspect of the storyline that you are not an established hero like Shepard was. That
Hmm.
you're still, it's a coming of age, like a hero's coming of age kind of story. Even the
Sounds
rest of
really.
the.
Even the rest of
Mhm.
the cast don't trust you yet. Like Cora doesn't trust you initially because she's like, "Why are you the Pathfinder? Why aren't I? I was the Pathfinder second. I should be the
Yeah.
one."
Yeah, you
That kind
find, well, initially she actually seemed to be taking it pretty darn well that you became the Pathfinder,
of
and I was actually shocked by how well she seemed to be taking it. And then later on, you'll find out on the ship that she actually had some issues with it, and I'm like, okay, well, that's more believable then. That's a lot
Yeah,
more believable.
like one thing that I will say about Cora is that she is a consummate professional in that she didn't say it in front of everyone. She wasn't doubting your leadership in front of everyone else on the ship. So that
Yes.
much I will say about her. Otherwise, we'll keep the character analysis until after we finish with the story digestion
Yeah.
because that'll take a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll move on to the Nexus, I guess, if there's nothing else.
Yeah. So yeah, you move on to the Nexus, and this actually was the part of the story that I felt, oh man, this is a Mass Effect game
Actually, the biggest
because
surprise for me too. Like we arrive there. Actually, this is. I'll let you do this bit because you seem to do this a bit better than I do. You can describe what happens when you arrive at the Nexus.
yeah, so we arrive at the Nexus and we believe that we're gonna have this. Liam expects that we're gonna have this big giant like welcome party, only to find the place pretty much deserted, but appears to be deserted, and you run into Avena, and Avena is like totally outdated, and then you
It's a
find
little bit
some.
like it's a little bit like an alien movie. You walk into a space
Yeah.
station,
Oh
all the
yeah.
lights are off. There's no one to be
Yes.
seen other than the VI. That's it.
Exactly. In general, like just throughout the plot so far, I love how there's so much mystery. There's
Hmm.
so much like stuff. You go into a situation where you're not really sure what's going on, and you have to explore to like uncover all the clues. So I love that's an experience that I
Nothing.
didn't.
You are literally Jon Snow in that you know nothing.
Yes, that's something that I did not feel consistently in any of the Mass Effect games. So it's really
Mm,
neat to
mm.
have that kind of thing, and I think that the same thing can be said about the side quests. A lot of the side
Yeah.
quests, at least that I've done so far, is less about fetch this or kill this many of that. It's more so and so like has been accused of murder, or
Oh
somebody is
yeah, that murder
sabotaging.
mission. Oh, I
Yes,
love
which I'll
that. I
get
love that
to.
in the first
Some
murder one. That's great. I love that.
Yes, or somebody's sabotaging these consoles. So it's more like yes, you're
It's
going to
more
places and clicking on
it's more
things, but it's
discovering and less
yes,
about going out and murdering something or solving a
exactly.
problem by using a weapon.
It's more engaging. You're engaged more, and
Because
that's what
I don't know if you've done this mission yet, but there's a mission on Volt that you probably know about
I
that
don't
there's
know
that
if I have that yet.
distinctly does feel that I'll talk to you after we're done with the video with it.
Okay, yeah, I don't
But
think I'm there yet.
once you do this mission, you will completely understand
Okay,
where this game is trying to go with, and it's a perfect side mission as far as I'm
okay,
concerned.
okay. Well, we're not gonna talk about that, or even
Hashtag
because
teasers. Hashtag teasers.
yes, yes. So so back to the Nexus. You end up meeting a whole overwhelming cast of characters who have different titles.
You meet one
Um,
character just to start the Nexus, just the one.
yeah.
Ooh,
Well, yes.
wait a
You meet the
second,
one.
an arc?
Yes. You find
So
out what happened.
genuinely profound. It's hilarious. I love it.
You yes. You find out that they actually woke up, I guess, from their stasis about more than a year ago,
It was a
and
year and 4 months, if I remember
right.
what oh, what's his first
Yes.
name? Kieran Kandros, I think his first name is. It starts with a K, I think. But yeah, it's
Candros.
Nyrene's cousin. Yeah, he
Yeah,
actually said
Nyrene's
he
cousin.
Nyrene's cousin.
Yes. Which
There
is
is a I think there's a soft book or a comic about his adventures on the Nexus out currently.
oh,
I
I
would
did not know
suggest you buy
that.
that.
That's a cool
I
tidbit.
would suggest you buy that because that is a great little comic actually.
I'll have to check
Can't
that
remember what
out.
it's called, but I'm sure you can
Oh,
Google it and
I'm
find
sure
it
I'll
somewhere.
find it out. But yeah, you find out from him that they've been active for 16 months essentially, and didn't get any word from the Ark, so they were assuming that the Arks got lost, they got killed, or whatever, and
Or the
they were
Scourge got
running out
him,
of
I think.
food. They were running out of
Yeah, running out of food,
resources.
running out of power, running out of food, power, and water was what they were running out of. They were literally just like
Right.
a case of rationing everything. Everyone was like, they
Yes.
were in revolt. Um, there were exiles, and you're like, it's been a year and 4 months. How
Yeah.
the hell has this happened?
Yeah. So
What?
yeah, things were falling apart, and even you find out that in the beginning, like things didn't start off well because the Scourge had actually destroyed major parts of the Nexus, which also ended up killing Gene Garson and a whole slew of leaders that were supposed to
I think
help
it
start up the
killed Dean
initiative.
Garson and then like a couple of hundred of the upper echelon of leaders. So
Hmm.
basically, it was a case of whomever's left alive is going to rank.
Have
That's more or
to
less what happened.
exactly, and so they were not. The morale, I'm sure, was low. So people were
Hmm.
people were like
There was
getting
no
there.
arcs turned
Yeah,
up.
people were panicking,
So
and that's totally
yeah.
totally understandable. Um, and
I mean, you arrive there and it's like people are jubilated to understand that there's actually a Pathfinder. There's an arc that's docked. The lights are on. Like that's the first thing
yeah,
that's like one of the very says to you. I think it's Knockmore Kesh who says it to you. You're
yeah,
turning the lights on, which is a good thing because we haven't had lights on here for a while, and there's lots of distrust towards you because you're not the actual human Pathfinder. You're just his son who's been given it. And I think the actual quote from Addison was, we don't need an inbred monarchy here, otherwise we'd have left like half of our gene pool at home."
yeah,
So we were like, yeah, it's completely understandable that people are pissed and people are
yeah.
worried.
They thought this whole thing was a sham. The way that I was thinking about it is, you're reading all these or seeing all this paraphernalia about how amazing the initiative is, only to wake up and find out, well, this isn't as great as I thought it was going to be. It sort of
Mm.
reminded me kind of the Fallout 4 or the Fallout vaults, because all the
Yeah,
vaults
because
are,
most of the
saying,
vaults, I think out of the 216 vaults, only 10 of them were actually living spaces. The rest of them were all experimental. The
right,
rest of them
right,
all had like some experiment to them. Either 10
exactly,
out of 216 vaults, 10 of them were meant for actual people. The other 216 were like
yeah,
99 men and one woman, and 99 woman and one man and a
yeah,
box of like sock
really,
puppets, and
yes.
just crazy shit. Like,
Right. So it made me feel like, the people who were in this program probably felt like this was a sham, and you
We should go
know
home because there's no
we should
point in being
go.
here
There's no
anymore.
point in being here anymore. And I wanted to talk about. I think it was Addison. I think Addison was
Mhm.
is the one who the
She's a colonial.
colonial.
Yeah, she's a colonial
Yes,
director. Yeah, she's.
a lot of I've noticed that a lot of people give Addison a lot of flack
Mm.
because she doesn't trust Ryder, or she is insisting that Ryder should prove himself or herself. And my response to that is, I
He
don't
should, or
blame
she
her.
should. He or she should,
I,
because literally she just turned up out of nowhere, docked on the ship, and said, "I'm the
yeah,
Pathfinder here." It's
I
literally a case of, you haven't, like, as she said, you're not the Pathfinder until you've pathfound something,
yes,
which means you're
I
literally nothing until you've done
I
that.
don't yeah, I don't blame Addison for wanting Ryder to prove himself, because they've gone through a lot of
Mm.
stuff for 14
Chef.
months. They've gotten
They've
through
gone
a
through a lot of sugar
lot.
honey iced tea, is what you're saying?
Yes. They've gone through a lot of stuff over the last 14 months. Ryder and the rest of the gang on the Hyperion, they only just woke up. They didn't have to
Yeah,
deal with all of
they literally
this.
just had a 650-year nap, and you just wake up and you're
Yes.
like, well, what the hell is going on here?
Right. They've had a 650
Wake.
year nap,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, these
they woke
people
up.
woke up a year and a half ago, more or less.
Yes.
There's been a
After.
revolt. They're running out
Yes.
of food, water, and oxygen. It's literally a case
Exactly.
of the whole place is falling apart. Like, I don't blame
Yes.
her. I don't blame her at all for being a bit
Yeah.
skeptical
She
of the whole
she,
situation.
the way I'm sure she's feeling is, I don't have to be sympathetic, towards you right now,
Your
because
father's
you didn't have
dead.
to.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
everyone else here is the same. Everyone else here has lost family or friends. That kind of.
Right. You've skipped all of the really bad stuff that was going on for a year and a half, so she doesn't have as much sympathy for Ryder
Or
and the rest of the
patience even.
crew, or
She
patience.
literally has she
And
literally has no patience anymore. She's like, I've been here for a year and 4 months. Everything, like, all the colonies we've tried to form have failed. Everything's going
yes.
to shit. It's basically what happens.
and and then she I guess what I also was trying to say is that um, they've shown that they've had disappointment after disappointment. Things don't pan out, and so here's this new Pathfinder guy who is claiming
This
that he
22-year
can.
old Pathfinder,
Yes,
literally,
who's
this
claim.
young man who turns up and says, my dad gave me this thing. Now I'm the
Yes,
Pathfinder.
right. Claiming that he could fix all of this. So of course she's going to be skeptical, because I mean, why am I going to set myself up for disappointment again? Like, why should I get my
Why am I
hopes up
listening?
again?
Like, why am I listening to this guy who's literally done a single tour, like probably somewhere in the Alliance military,
Right.
left and came here? Like, that's literally all that happened. If you've, like, from what I understand, they joined the
Right.
Alliance at 18. A single tour is 4 years, meaning they're 22, meaning they literally had just finished their first tour of assignment. Now they're on the Ark. Now they're in Andromeda. It's literally a case of they've
Yes.
just barely finished basic training. And now all of a sudden he's a Pathfinder. He's going to be our savior. No, don't think so.
Plus the fact that Alec Ryder decided to, instead of letting someone like Cora take over as Pathfinder, he
Mm.
lets his son or daughter take Pathfinder, when Cora clearly, at least on paper, is more
Mm.
is more appropriate for taking over, on paper at least. So
She's not only
she's
an
more
Asari commando,
qualified.
but she was also an Alliance officer.
Yeah,
She's literally been trained to be a leader for her
she's
entire
more
life.
qualified on paper.
Yeah.
So
I mean, on paper, you could
Addison's.
say Vetro would be more qualified since she's actually been here for a long time.
You
Any other
could.
people on the Nexus could be more qualified because they've been here longer.
Yeah.
You know, Technically they
So
know more, they've seen more. You know,
so I think that people should at least not give Addison
tone it
too
down a bit.
much. Tone it down a bit, because
Just tone it down
I'm
a bit.
like,
Tone it down a bit. You know,
yeah, put yourself in her shoes. Like, she is completely. It's understandable that
out of
she's.
hope. She's out of hope.
Yeah.
She has seen loads of people die. She has had to kick off like
Right.
half of the Nexus crew because they all revolted. Like, she's been stabbed in the back, stabbed in the chest, and now she's got a gun to her head.
Yeah.
And,
How about Director Tan?
oh, I want to shoot him, like right in
You
the
don't
face.
like Director Tan. Okay.
No, Director Tan, he reminds me a lot of like dictators. He has that very dictatorish vibe about him. Like, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I'm in charge. Um, I distinctly remember there was a quote. I think he said, "You got permission to do this," and I just turned to him and I goes, "Good," and I'm like, "What?" I want to punch
Hmm.
you in the face. You're just so
Yeah.
arrogant and annoying. Like, if I had to choose, like, I really hope that we have a decision coming up where we can choose who is in charge of the Nexus. And the minute that happens, I'm putting Kesh in charge.
Ooh. Ooh, that's cool. Oh, that would be an awesome
Yeah.
choice. I kind
The
of
minute that
feel
happens,
like
I'm putting Kesh in charge.
I think a lot of people would want to
Like,
put Kesh in
please.
charge. We'll talk about
Yeah,
Kesh in a
because
moment.
Kesh and Kandros,
Yeah.
those two seem to be the only two who actually know what the hell they're doing.
Direct director
Um, Director
director
Tan
Tan.
reminds me
Uh-huh.
incredibly arrogant, hates Krogan. He needs to take the stick out of his ass kind of individual who's just been so uptight and stuck up his own, uh, you know, career to notice the fact that he's literally standing on the edge. He is literally on the gangplank, and he's trying to talk himself off by saying, "You can't do this to me. I am the captain."
Okay, so I actually will have to defend Director Tan a little bit because I
Mm,
actually, again, just like Addison, I understand he was this sort of like fell in his lap. He was an accountant, and he was
yeah,
eighth in line. It fell onto
yeah.
his lap. He could have
I mean,
easily. Go
I mean,
ahead.
in a way, I understand why you're saying that, but like at the end of the day, he can still stop being such a dick. Let's be honest.
To be
Being
fair,
powerful shouldn't turn you into a dick. It shouldn't change who
I
you are. He could
would.
always just been a dick. So
To be fair, I would rather Director Tan than the Council. Honestly, I would direct. Well,
um,
at least the council from Mass Effect One. I'd rather Director Tan because at least Director Tan at least is reasonable enough
listens
to listen to. He
listens
doesn't
to
have to
you.
trust Ryder. He doesn't have
Yeah,
to.
he's the only one. He's actually, you're right too. He's the only one who actually listens to Ryder off the get go.
He's giving Ryder a
He's the only one
chance,
that
and he
trusts
actually,
Ryder. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
he
like,
trusts Ryder.
go ahead. Like it's not like we can lose anything else. You know,
Yeah. So
you're right in that sense. I'll give you that much. Yeah, Ryder Tan has his good sides, but personally, I don't think he was meant for leadership.
I no, I agree with you. I agree he's not ideal. I totally agree with you. But I do recognize that working with
He's
him
making the best
with
out of a bad situation. Is what he's trying
he's
to do.
making the right. Working with him, he's actually relatively reasonable. Like Ryder has made a number of requests for him and he's virtually said yes or approved to all of it. You know,
Mm, mm.
he admits that, you know, it's he's not sure why he should trust you to do all this, but he's taking a chance. He's taking a chance with him,
He
or
has an
her.
inner choice. You know, it's a case of he might as well let you do it and see what the hell happens at
Right.
the worst.
As far as yeah, as far as
You
bad
know.
leadership goes in like RPG games, Director Tan is far from the worst for me. Now, yes,
Mm,
I totally agree with
mm.
you that the prejudice against the Krogan is awful, terrible, and I absolutely hate that aspect of him. And that's he's probably going to what goes around comes around, so he's probably going to face the consequences of that eventually.
Boot straight to the
But
face, or to the boot,
yes,
as he said out the airlock. Either one.
right. But compared to other really bad leaders that I've dealt with, that flaw, there are worse.
Mm,
I've seen worse flaws in bad
yeah,
leaders.
that's a negotiable flaw. Like that's a flaw that you're just like, it's okay. It's at least at the very least, you're not the one who stabbed the Krogan in the back. You just sort of went, meh, they're not here
Yeah.
anymore. That's fine with me.
I do, what I will say though is I am disappointed that there wasn't a choice to reprimand or give very strong opinions on Tan's prejudice. Like that is one thing that I
Yeah,
wish there was a dialogue
like
choice for because you don't
so
really get to say
far,
that.
right. So far, I've come across two. What do they call them? Um, like it's instinctive actions or like something like that. Like it's like
Interrupts.
yeah, it's like the interrupts,
Inter.
but it's called something particular. They're called something specific. Like they're like some kind of action is what they're called, and you
Sure.
can take them or not take them. And I really wanted one to pop up there so I could like grab Tan by like the collar and say, "Don't you be racist."
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I think you could correct me, but I believe he's voiced by a main character in Director Tan. I believe is voiced by a main character from The Big Bang Theory. I think is what I heard. I don't
Yeah, I
watch.
think you're right on that one.
I unfortunately don't watch the
I think you're right.
show, but I
Yeah, I
think
think you're
that's
right.
true.
I think you're
He
right on that one. I'm pretty sure
he.
you're right on that one.
I know that he voiced Reggie in Telltale's Walking Dead season 2. So I know that.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty cool.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
There's
but yeah,
actually quite
I do believe you're right in that one. There's actually a lot of
yeah
callback as well because
yeah
that was a pretty cool interaction. I heard Javik's voice just in the background, and I'm like, oh, I know that voice actor.
no
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, but the Nexus gets a bit politicky, for lack of a better term. Once you
mhm,
get to the Nexus, you have to talk to a lot of people. Um, about the militia. You talk to Kesh about how the actual ship is handling, and Tan about how everything's going. In general, everything's bad.
yeah, and of course I
Apart, the
gotta fix
militia
everything.
is yeah. That's basically how everything goes. You turn
Let me
up, you
fix
fix everything.
everything.
Tan
The
tells
stuff.
you like everyone's mutinous. Kandros tells you we aren't even the real police force. We're just armed civilians who happen to be
Mhm,
mostly Turians because we all know how to use a gun. And Kesh is just like the ship is falling apart. I'm barely able to like the only reason the ship hasn't fallen apart yet is because I'm in charge here. Um, it's just a case of you see everything going to hell and you're like, well, better fix some of this.
mhm.
And I think then from there, you're basically told to go to Eos. You're given your ship. You meet Vetra. You meet Gil. You meet Suvi.
Suvi, Kalojath.
Oh, Kalojath. Um, who else do you meet? You don't meet Drac or PB until you're actually on Eos.
Yes, that
So
comes
that's
later.
it then. It's really, I really, really loved the introduction of the Tempest. Oh, it's so cool.
Yes,
It reminded me of the SR2 normally in Mass Effect 2.
yes.
Thing is,
Oh,
I think the Tempest is actually smaller than the SR1. I think that's canon because if I remember correctly, in the SR1 is a I think that the Tempest is below a cruiser. I think it's like a frigate or something like. No,
hmm
the SR2 was a frigate. The
hmm
SR1 was a cruiser. I think you're a tier below that because you're literally all you are is a transport ship for people. That's very
yeah,
very nice on the inside. I will not deny that it's a very well built ship. That's got a very nice interior. But if you were actually on a military ship, there's no way in hell the Pathfinder would have that much space to himself.
hmm hmm
You've literally got like half the front of the ship to yourself.
yeah,
Um, there's all this like it's literally just a case of it's two decks and a cargo bay, and that's it.
yeah. I like
Like
I like
it's hilarious.
the layout and the design of the
Yeah, yeah.
Tempest.
It
It's really neat.
it's very sleek, very
It's very
futuristic.
sleek.
I like
Uh,
how you walk up to the cockpit on the second floor if you're coming out from the like the R&D and all that. It's a
mhm.
glass floor, so you can see people below you. It's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a super sweet design. They're able to fit a lot in the small space that you have.
Yeah, there. They've got
It's
a
very
You've got your six companions on the ship in their various
hmm
places. You've got
hmm
all of the other crew all in their various places as well, and you've
hmm
got the nomad.
yes, yes,
So you've got an awful lot on a very small space.
yes. And I love all the little things that they put in the ship, like the community board or the whatever
The
the
message
bulletin
board.
board.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
pretty cool.
that's pretty neat. I like that.
That's
Obviously,
cool.
you still have your emails. Um,
Yeah,
the
which are important
the
actually in this game because you can get missions from them.
Yeah, you can get missions from them. The captain's quarters, like you mentioned, is neat. I like that you have a place where you can customize, as usual. Though here's one thing that I mention in my Let's Play is that if you go and customize the colors of your armor or your clothing, it's not intuitive how to save the colors because I
Mm,
had such a
mm.
hard time changing my colors, and then I would exit out, and the colors wouldn't stay changed.
Wouldn't say.
Yeah, and I discovered later on that you have to hit the space bar to save the
Mm.
colors, and nowhere in the
Well,
UI, nowhere in the screen does it say press the space bar to save your colors. It just says,
well, I'm on this,
escape.
so
Got it.
I should be okay. I'm on
You're
this, so I
probably
should be all right.
okay. But
Yeah,
PC
yeah.
for the PC gamer
I got my
like
pimp
me,
ass
it was
skull
a problem.
controller here.
That's
Everyone needs their little
amazing.
bit of pimping. Nice skull
Nice.
controller.
I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, like
Um,
in general, I believe that the Tempest is a really nicely designed ship. It's sleek.
yeah.
It's like I think as PB put it, it's brains in the front, power in the back. It is
Yes.
if you're looking for someone who has brains, you go to the front. You're looking for someone who's a powerful individual, or as an engineer, you go into the back. That's
Yeah.
simple. All your R&D is nice and put into one place. You can do strike team missions from there. You can do your R&D. You can buy and sell
Yeah.
things from there. And you can also do AVP there, which is pretty cool too. You can literally
Yes.
just, you don't have to go back to the Tempest at all to buy and sell things, which I like. I hated having to go back to the Citadel to buy and sell things in Mass
Mm-hmm.
Effect 3. Um, well, like, otherwise, I thought it was okay. Generally, I thought
Yeah.
the Tempest is this cool ship that you can genuinely find yourself a place to live on. Um, like the characters, all the characters were fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end up on Eos. Eos is
Yes.
planet, which is
Well,
radiate, which
before
is
be- well
because
before we go into EOS, before we go to EOS, I want to talk more about the ship.
yeah,
Um,
sure. What would you like
like
to
the
talk about?
galaxy map, totally different. When I first saw the trailer, one of the earliest trailers of Mass Effect Andromeda, where Alec Ryder is, sort of swiping, through the galaxy maps, I was wondering if we would get to play Galaxy Tinder, if we could play some Galaxy Tinder
That's
for the
literally that's
galaxy
literally what I
maps,
was
but
thinking. He's literally swiping
swipe
right at all of
left.
these planets. Like, yep, 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 yep,
Yep,
yep,
yep,
yep,
yep.
yep,
No,
yep.
no. Yes, yes, no.
Yeah.
But
He's like, oh look, it's
I
a tropical planet.
I think it's so obviously one of the things the developers tried to do here is make it so that you actually watched as the Tempest flies from planet to planet.
Mm,
You get
mm.
a sequence where you go from planet to planet, but I wonder though if at some point it'll feel like that takes way too long compared to, in the older galaxy map, you just fly the ship around, you just and
Mm.
you're at the planet instead of having to wait for this animation showing you to fly to this next planet. I'm not sure yet
Well,
if that.
I can see it in both senses. In the original sense, it's very pretty to look at. It's not like in the first. It's not like in the first. It's like in the first game where if you
You
accidentally
just click.
misclicked on where you just clicked on something, and if you ended up in the wrong system, you had to back all the way out again,
Hmm.
then go back in.
Hmm.
In this one, you can, it's not like Mass Effect 2 or 3 where you fly about and it's not as fast, but it's definitely prettier.
Yeah.
You get to see all these planets nice and close up. You get to see all
True.
these element zero, like deposits you find, or these comets
Yes.
flying past. It distinctly
Yes.
does look pretty,
I,
and I
I,
will
I
give it that
like
much.
I like the probing system in this one too. The probing system is
Yeah.
very cool. How they did that.
Um. Yeah. One thing though that I don't like is just how long it takes. Like, I don't like how long it'll take for the animation to go from like a planet
Yeah.
that's like
Yes.
it will get boring and it will get tedious, but right
Yeah.
now I'm enjoying it all the same just by looking at it.
Yeah.
It will
I
eventually wear on people, I think.
Yeah, I hope that there would be a way to skip the animation, or even better if there was a way you can do a setting, like an actual gameplay setting that just says just skip
Mm,
the animation to fly from one planet to another, cuz it's not as bad
mm.
as say Final Fantasy 15 driving all over the place. That's my biggest gripe with Final Fantasy 15 is how I'm driving all over. But I think it can definitely be annoying later on if you've played the game for like the fifth time.
Like you're going through the game as like Sarah Ryder for a second time. You know where all the planets are. You know what all the descriptions are. You've seen
Hmm.
everything. You know where the anomalies are. You've
Hmm.
literally done all that. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do the bare minimum because I won't need to see as many animations then. Therefore, it won't take as long.
Yeah, maybe. Um, okay, cool. So then we go to EOS if there's nothing else you want to talk about
Mm.
with the ship. Um,
Um, the the general like idea that Liam had of just getting a couch and just throwing it somewhere. I like that idea.
I like that
It's
idea.
like, oh yeah, everywhere needs a couch. Let's be honest.
There's in general there's a lot more banter on the ship now, and I think part of what helps is that it is a smaller ship, so you get a
Mm,
lot of cross banter. People,
yeah,
and but the
like
problem with
you'll have people on the balconies shouting down to people into like the,
yeah,
the storage cargo area, that kind of thing.
but the problem is I feel like it's easier to miss dialogue that way, because
Mm,
you might accidentally click on something while somebody's talking, or you might accidentally like walk away from a conversation. It's just that's the only
yeah,
thing is I feel like I'm
that is
missing
that
a
is.
lot of content.
Liam was talking in the Nomad with Vetra about how he met a scarred up Turian a few
Mm.
years ago, and I was just like,
Mm.
is he talking about Garrus? But then the next
I
thing I
think he
know, we're in
is.
combat. Next thing I know, we're in combat, and like the item goes
Oh,
off, and I'm like, no,
I want to
why?
hear. I want to hear what he
Yeah,
said. Oh,
yeah, that really
um,
irritated me. That is the one
yeah.
like open world games that have open banner. You can be
They
walking about, someone starts saying, the next thing you get ambushed and you miss out on the banner.
they did better job of that in Inquisition, because in Inquisition, if you end up in
Yeah.
a fight, they'll keep talking, and I think the volume actually gets louder. The audio
Mm-hmm.
for the voices get louder when you're in a combat, so you can not
Mm-hmm.
miss it. Which so
Which
I
is pretty
kind of
cool.
wish that they
Yeah.
did that for this game, but
Well, it makes more sense in like a Mass Effect game, which is much more military than say Inquisition was. In the
yeah,
sense that people
but
stop talking about, people stop the idle chatter and move on to being a military individual. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Liam
but
is a military guy. He's a cop, which is understandable. He was a cop, which is understandable when it comes to him
yeah,
being so rigid. And the minute he gets into combat, he's like, stop the idle chatter. Gotta
hmm,
focus on helping people. That kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
At the same time, I can see where you're coming from in the sense that it's nice to hear the chatter
yeah.
that's going on.
Um, so we go to EOS. Did you want to talk about EOS, or should I talk about EOS?
I'll talk about EOS since you did the
Go ahead.
Nexus. So we arrive on EOS and it's radiated. It's Fallout. It's radiation.
Hmm.
It's
It's
radiation
Fallout.
everywhere.
Yes.
It's Fallout. It's radiation everywhere. Um, Place is just torn to shreds. There's no one there. You try to get into like this. Get the power back on to get like the satellites turned on so you can get communications going. You have to find a code to get into there, and you come across somebody who's like, I have a code for this thing out there that has like an all-terrain vehicle in it, and we'll give it to you if you can, turn everything back on and defeat the cat. So you turn everything back on, you beat the cat, and this guy gives you this code for this cargo.
Hmm.
Nomad. This is where the Nomad is introduced, and the
Yes,
Nomad looks so pretty. Oh, I love it. It
it
looks so
does.
good. Mhm. You get the Nomad, and my initial response of the Nomad was, "Oh my god, this feels so good. It's so nice to drive. It's so smooth, so responsive. It feels so much better than the Mako. So much better than the Mako. They did it right this time."
So for me, because I've driven the Nomad for quite some time, I will totally agree with you that it's head and shoulders way better than the Mako. Head and shoulders. Driving around the planets in the Nomad is still my least favorite part of this game. I can't stand it sometimes. To be fair, though, I think that part of the problem I'm having right now is that when I get to the point where I'm even in rough terrain mode, if I'm trying to go up like a steep hill and not making any progress, to be fair, I just realized that I can try to boost my way past that.
Yeah,
But
that is
it's
something I realized
still
recently. I'm like,
it's
ching boost
still
and rotate.
painful for me personally driving around in the Nomad.
Mm.
But it is better
The
than
thing
the Mako.
is, yeah, the thing is though as well, you can upgrade the Nomad to be faster in both 4-wheel and 6-wheel drive, so it gets
Hopefully
faster
that'll
eventually.
help. Hopefully
It
that'll
gets
help
faster.
because
Um, Genuinely think it looks distinctly better, handles distinctly better, and has some
it
cool
does.
paint jobs.
It does. I agree. I agree. They did a great job of improving the Mako. It's
Hmm.
still my least favorite part of the game. I hate it
Well, I
so
mean,
much.
I can understand it because there is a lot of like the little rock outcroppings, and it can react a bit
Yeah,
weird, but it still reacts a lot better than the Mako ever did.
I agree.
Um,
Yes,
you
totally.
know, uh,
Totally.
then you end up getting to this remnant tower thing, and you meet PB for the first time, and PB is
Hmm.
you know, literally she just straight up jumps on you, and you're on the ground underneath her, and she's like,
And
just
she's
let
on
it
top
ride.
of you.
And I'm like, literally she says let it ride, and I'm just like, don't
Yep.
do this to me.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
you have
She's
a
riding
you could
Ryder.
just, yeah, you can literally
Did you
decide
push
to
her
push her off
off?
or not. I did
Oh,
not, because
yeah.
I was just like, no. I didn't push her off because my rider's a gentleman over there.
Yeah.
She'll get up eventually.
I
I'm
didn't push
wearing
her off
armor. She
either.
can't feel anything. I'm wearing
Yeah.
armor. She won't feel anything.
Yeah.
Um,
In my case,
so
she wasn't going to feel anything, but go ahead.
yeah,
She
true.
wasn't going
My,
to.
my, my like made it canonical that my rider's bisexual. He flirts with Gil and he flirts with Vetra. So, um, but yeah, after that, then you get up and you learn some PB. These things are called a remnant. They're really old
Mm-hmm.
machines,
Geth 2.0.
and
It's Geth
yes,
2.0.
2.0.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ST 1, but they are really cool looking. You can't deny the fact that some
They
of these
are
designs
cool.
look
I
really
like
good.
all their designs. Yeah, they're
Um,
neat.
yeah. So you end up defeating some remnants, scanning some glyphs, and solving a Sudoku puzzle. Literally, it's a
Yes,
Sudoku puzzle.
it is
Yeah, it's a
Sudoku.
Sudoku puzzle.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can decide not to. You can literally just be lazy and find yourself some remnant like decryption keys and just not do it. But
yeah,
personally, I wanted to test my own brain and figure it out and do it myself in my own head, and
yeah,
I've done pretty well. I think I've used one
yeah,
overdrive the entire time.
yeah.
You then
So far, they're not too bad.
yeah, they're not
Yeah,
too bad, but from what I understand, they get really difficult later on. Like you can have like
yeah,
6 or 7 different rows
yeah,
and
and
stuff.
yeah,
And it does get pretty difficult. It does get difficult later on, but you know, it'll be okay. The worst you get is like a remnant squad,
yeah,
and they're not too hard to beat.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so you activate this monolith, and then you're told, okay, there's 2 more. Go activate them. See what happens. We go activate them. Same thing again. You run across a remnant, travel a bit. You come across 1 or 2 little missions there. There's the murder mission, the very first murderer of Andromeda,
yes,
who supposedly shot his friend, but he thought he was shooting a Ket, and it turns out that he did mean to shoot his friend.
yes,
Well, I won't spoil it too badly, but basically what happens was um, he wasn't entirely innocent
no, he
in the
wasn't
sense
entirely
of
innocent.
he wasn't entirely innocent, but he didn't actually, he wasn't entirely innocent, and you can decide whether or not to let him go or keep him in jail.
Yes,
And I thought it was really
yes,
cool how instead of being a case of it was all blue skies and sunny days, or it was a bad thing. It was a nice little gray ground. You're in the middle here. He technically didn't do anything wrong, but technically at the same time he meant to do something wrong. So what do? Do you let him go or do you not?
yeah.
Sorry.
Because you can
But
be
yeah,
prosecuted. You can be
yeah,
prosecuted, at least in the U.S. I think you can be prosecuted with the intention of murder. I think
yeah. I'm
you
pretty sure
can.
the intent often does matter, but in this case it's very gray because he was tried for murder, but he didn't actually commit a murder. So
True.
it's very gray in that sense. Um,
True.
Actually, I'll tell you a little funny thing about him later on. That Turian who did that. Um, but yeah, you're on EOS. You do all your little side missions, do all that kind of thing. Open up this vault. The
Well,
Remnant
before that,
Vault.
you run into another character.
Ah, yes, good old
You run in.
Drac,
You run into Drac. Yes.
big hulking Krogan, who's like a century and a
Yes.
half old.
Who's
Sorry, a
yeah, an
millennium and a
older
half old.
Core Krogan. Mm-hmm.
He's literally so old. He's older than the dirt in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he actually there is actually a line I think between him and Vetra when they're talking about how the humans turned up, and he says, "Don't they realize how squishy they were?" They're very reckless for being how squishy they are because humans are very squishy in comparison to Turians and
Yeah,
Krogan.
we are.
Um, which Drac was alive when the humans turned up for the Krogan rebellions. He's a really
Yeah.
old man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Basically from that there, he's this really old badass. Basically, he's this really old
Yeah.
merc. Uh,
Yeah.
he and Rex are very similar in the sense that they're old mercenaries.
Yeah.
They're old grizzled veterans. Um, go over. He doesn't initially sign up with you. He's like, I don't need to be, backpacking humans or anything like that. And he's like, oh, a friend of Vetra is a friend of mine because I brought Vetra along with me. Because the minute I saw her, I was just like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
along with me. She's like, oh, he's with me. Friend of Vetra is a friend of mine. Lets me go, so on and so forth. He then walks off, and you're like, okay, go back to kind of thing. Then you go to the vault, and the
Yeah. You in
vault,
the vault.
so much fun. I love the vault. Like exploration. Actually, it reminds me of what was that DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition? Deep Dark. Where you go down
Yes,
into
I
like
can see that.
the
Yes, I can
vault,
see
that kind of
that.
thing. It
Deep
reminds me of that.
darkness.
It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of that. It reminds me of that in the sense that you go in there and you're trying to find your way through it, and you discover this fighting a way to Remnant, discovering things about them that they're really old. They've got this like river of
Right.
Omnigel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like you step in, it's like an electrical hazard. Um, it's generally just a very fun experience, and you can decide whether or not PB follows you at the whole time. You can decide if PB is with you the entire time or if she goes her own way. I let her go her own way because I'm like, man, she can obviously handle it herself.
I don't
She
remember that
can obviously
choice.
survive.
Oh, I don't remember that. Huh.
As a choice, you can decide whether or not
I did
PB
not know that. Huh.
Um, but yeah, then it was one of the trailers. You get that experience of this big cloud following you.
Yeah.
You activate this beam, so you run as fast as you can.
Yes. The collector
You can't catch
swarm
me.
is
I'm the
chasing
gingerbread
you.
man. Yeah, you can't
Yes.
catch me. I'm the Rider man.
Yes.
So you manage to find this like console, and Rider's just like tap 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 tap, and it basically stops this thing from killing them.
Yeah.
But then it turns out
Convenient.
when they get to yeah, very convenient. It's like what do they call it? The purification wave. It's like a
Yeah.
making sure everything in there is the right species, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get out of there, and you discover that the radiation has already started to bleed off, and it's like
Yep.
ridiculously quick.
Mm-hmm.
Madness, Sparta. No, this is Eos. So then you start up your own colony there, and that's basically where EOS ends. You start
Yeah.
up your own colony. You meet like the new mayor, um, EOS, and you're contacted by Addison turns up and she's like, "Hey, you've actually got a colony going. Do you think it'll last?" And Ryder's like, "Yeah, I'm perfectly happy. I think it'll work." And you know,
Yeah. And you can make a big decision with this settlement.
military or science.
Military or science. Mm-hmm.
I went with science.
Everybody seems to be going science. I went with science too, and several of my friends also went science. So that seems to be the
Mm-hmm.
popular one.
It doesn't really surprise me because nobody's really interested in being like the military. Hoorah, we're here to take over. Because if you make a
Right.
military base as your very first encampment, it looks like you're here as someone to take over and
Yeah.
being a hostile
It's first impression. Mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was actually the term that they used, and I asked two people with me, and I think Liam and Vetcher both said go with science, and I was like, okay, I'm sold.
Gotcha.
So, so I think basically after that, then the thing is though, and I don't like this, is that you cannot decide any other settlements what they are. You can't decide if they're military or science. They're all science from now on. They're all a scientific based
Oh, okay,
station.
okay. Okay,
That
then I'm
very
happy with
second,
my decision.
yeah,
Yeah.
from that very second, they're all science. They're all military,
Gotcha.
and then
Okay.
everything else will come after that, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, you finish up EOS, and you can do all your side missions there, and do a bit of mining. Mining is actually kind of irritating because you have to like
Yeah.
legitimately go find it, but it's all right. Doing side missions, you'll find a resource anyway, a few little bits and pieces. It's all right. I made myself a full set of Pathfinder armor, so now I look like dad. So I'm walking around in a full set of Pathfinder armor.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's one thing that I don't really like is that it feels like I'm advancing really slowly through armor and weapons because I'm still using like my N7 Valkyrie 1 and like my
oh,
N7,
okay.
my Phalanx 2 and stuff like
Hmm.
that, and I'm like level 40. No, sorry, I'm not level 40. I'm like level 25 or something like that. Slow in advancing if you don't grind, but I don't really want to grind, so.
I'm not going to grind. Yeah. So far, I don't have to. If I have to, then I'd rather lower the difficulty than grind personally.
Oh no, no, no! You're not grinding to like to beat the enemies or get XP. You're grinding to get minerals and resources.
Oh, I see what you're saying. To get gotcha. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's like
but
it's like an Inquisition where you're like trying to make a really cool set of armor and you need like more stuff. You just go out and get it. But
yeah,
in this game, you have to actually drive out and get it. So it's a bit
yeah,
more,
yeah. Um, then when you get back, have to go back to Nexus to continue the main storyline. You go back to Director Tan, um, and then you can see that his office has expanded quite a bit, and you gain permission from him because he's cool with us apparently. To move on and check out this one vault that supposedly is still working, is still functioning,
Mhm.
and on a planet Aya, I believe.
Yes.
But before you head for Aya, you also optionally can check on your sibling, and there's a really neat scene where you get to talk to your sibling while he or she's in coma, which I loved. I like that they
Yeah.
included that.
Was I
You can,
catch that part of your video, but I was definitely thinking, definitely thinking Hark is going to enjoy this whole mental
yeah,
connection thing because it's like
yeah,
everyone says siblings have mental connections. No, they actually do.
and especially twins.
It's a
A
bit
lot of
something.
people say twins
Yeah,
have a
especially
mental
twins.
connection. Let me ask you this:
Uh,
did you tell answer your siblings' questions truthfully about A, your
I
dad,
did.
and B, you did? Okay.
I
Just out of
literally
curiosity,
decided not to lie to her because
and
lying
what
to her would
did
have just made it harder when she woke up.
I told her the truth about how things didn't really pan out with the habitats, but I didn't say anything about Dad yet because I wanted her to deal with that when she was awake, not when she was
Mm.
in a coma. But what did she say? I'm just curious when you told her the truth about the father.
He can't be dead was basically his dad. You know, that whole, dad's
Mm,
invincible, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
okay,
That
I
was basically
gotcha.
what it was. You
Denial.
know,
That's fine.
it was
Um,
basically a case of, he was like one of the first N7s. He was at the carrion relay. He fought Turians on Chitix.
yeah,
He's literally this giant war veteran, and she's just
that's
like, no, he
neat.
can't die.
That's neat.
Can't die. That's that you kind of expected when it comes to this really old veteran dude who's literally
Hmm.
been through everything, like Drax. Like you don't expect him to die because he's just been through everything. So
Yeah,
for her to react like that, but it was genuinely
right.
heartbreaking.
Yeah. Um, and then you eventually make your way. Well, you try to make your way to Aya, and then surprise, surprise, you're attacked by the cat. Surprise. You
Literally a
meet.
giant, like
Yes.
these all of these
Um,
ships, just all of these
you
ships.
you meet the Archon, who they're starting to dress up as the big bad. I'm not believing that he's actually the big bad at the moment.
No,
I'm not
what
buying
I'm
that
what I'm
yet.
what I'm actually thinking is happening here, and this is just a little bit of a theory crap that I've come up with so far.
Yeah.
You see the Archon trying to do what your dad did with the thing, and the whole reaching out and trying to
Yeah.
copy him and stuff like that. And I genuinely think that the Archon is here to try and figure out the Remnant, to try and save these planets. The
Mm.
Remnant are being the good guys. Sorry, the Ket are trying to be the good guys, but they're doing it in the wrong way. They're doing it
Mm.
in their own way, in that they're just like, we're going to keep kidnapping people and taking people until we can find someone who can, control the
Hmm.
Ket. Sorry, control the
I
Remnant.
I believe that that's true too. I think the Ket are not like the evil people that we think that they are. I think that their motives are at least in the right direction, and I
Mm.
thought that maybe the Ket are the ones that are trying to stop the scourge. I think they're the
That could be it
ones,
too. It could be
or
that the Remnant designed the Scourge because the Scourge is
right,
unnatural. Someone made it or someone caused it to
right,
happen.
and the Ket
So
are
it,
trying to
it could,
stop the scourge. Hmm.
yeah, they're trying to figure out how the Remnant created it so that way they can destroy it. Find the
That's
thing
yeah,
that
yeah,
created it. Therefore, you find the thing that can destroy it.
right,
Um, it makes a
and
certain amount of sense, but in a
right,
way, I
and
kind of
right,
hope that I kind of hope that Ryder figures it out before everyone else does, and just like the Ket aren't really the bad guys, but they've been killing
yeah,
everyone. Yeah, we've been killing them too.
yeah. I'm hoping that Ryder has a chance to figure that out, or at least the plot definitely goes in that direction, and
Mm.
because I understand, like they're trying to do this, and all of a sudden Ryder and the gang are coming in and being a nuisance,
Yeah,
getting in
yeah.
the way.
And like
So,
literally, the Archon didn't say we were here to kill you. We were here to like show Ryder his greatness. I'm like, hmm.
oh,
That is the line that he uses. We are here to introduce you to your greatness.
see,
Bring the
that's
ship
what I'm
in.
curious
You know,
about. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like,
So
oh,
I'm really, really, really curious and excited about where that's going to go plot wise and what the Ket's true role
intentions are.
is in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
game and true intentions are. But somehow
Mm.
Kalojath pulls off an amazing escape thanks to Sam's calculations.
Earth
Um,
being in the way that kind of helped.
right. I thought that was
And you get that
he
that
dodged.
trailer scene where he's like going out of the
Yes,
scourge and across
which
there.
is pretty cool. So Kalajath got to have a really awesome moment there, and then we eventually do end up in Aya, and we meet the Twi'leks. I mean, we meet the Navi. I mean, we meet the Angarans,
I mean, we meet the cat people.
the
Um,
cat people. We meet the Thundercats.
yeah.
So
We meet this race of
yes,
like cats that have this really weird reverberation to their voice, and I'm like, I'm
yes,
not sure if I like it or not yet.
yeah,
I'm not sure if I like it or not yet, but it's easy to listen to at the very least.
yes. They seem to have a very diverse um, set of accents. Like
There
they're
was I heard Welsh, I heard Australian,
yeah,
uh,
exactly. It's not like
Indian as well.
It's not like in
Yeah,
Dragon Age where traditionally specific races talk a certain way, have a specific accent.
yeah.
So that was
Like
interesting.
all dwarves have a Scottish accent, all elves speak in like a very weirdy Englishy kind of way, and then all
Hmm.
humans are American.
No, humans are actually British. They're
Oh.
British. They're UK.
Hmm.
It's the dwarves. The dwarves actually speak American. The dwarves in Dragon Age, the dwarves speak
Oh.
American. The humans speak British.
Amazing.
I'm sorry.
And then the elves are just meh. The elves are just elvish.
Well, the elves, at least in Dragon Age 2, the elves were Welsh. The
Hmm.
elves spoke Welsh in Dragon Age 2. I know
Oh
that
yeah, you're
much.
right too. Yeah, you're right. Because I remember
Yeah.
Mira having that very distinctly Welsh accent. Yeah, you're right too.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But yeah.
Um.
What was I going to say?
Anyway,
Yeah, I
back
would have
to
thought that the
back
dwarves would have
to
been German because that makes a certain amount of sense to me.
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
But anyway, back to
Yeah.
Andromeda.
Back to Aya, you meet Jal and you meet all of these
Yes.
Angarans, and it's just like it's really interesting because they're like, we don't trust aliens here because aliens have done nothing but hurt us over the last 80 or so years.
Yes.
You
So
discover
it's
that
under.
they've been at war with the Ket, and blah
Yeah.
blah blah. They're a very interesting race in that they're very hard on their
Mm-hmm.
sleeve,
Mm-hmm.
trained. They're the opposite of Turians in that sense. They were told to be as emotional as possible and let it just flow out from a great.
Yeah. That's really neat. I love that. Um, and uh, yeah, like the exchange with Ephra is interesting. You get to learn about. You start to get pockets about
Mhm.
what the Angarans are about, and then eventually, in my opinion, rather quickly, Jal ends up warming up to Ryder to the point that he's willing to go alone onto his ship and go on this merry
Mm.
mission. He seemed to, yeah, that's
So
the thing.
what you're saying is you don't think. So what you're saying is you're going to probe Gel.
No, I'm not
Mm.
saying that. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that Jal seemed to be warming up to Ryder, not the other way around necessarily,
Yeah.
because
So
Jal
you're
was,
saying that Gel is going to be doing the probing, is what you're saying.
yes, probably, yeah, most likely.
Okay. I mean, he seems like that kind of guy. He seems like a very toppy kind of guy. But anyway.
Hot
Um.
topic. I can see
Uh.
that. I can see
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, Jal warms up the writer, and he comes on the ship, and almost immediately everyone is distrusting of him. It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, "Are
Yeah.
the translators working?" And he's just like, "They are." He's just sitting in a corner, like, "Yeah, they are
Yeah.
working. I can understand you."
Yeah.
Al
Yeah.
is he's distinctly different in the sense that Ryder turns to him. You should talk now instead of more. It's a case of you need to speak up
Mm-hmm.
instead of you need to let us know what you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, Jal is distinctly more interesting than I thought he'd be.
yeah. I'm definitely curious to see um, how the relationship will grow, like
Mm.
moving forward with that. And we'll save that, I think, for the next video. Um, but yeah. So I think that, well, at least plot wise, I think that ends the content that we can get
So
up
that
to
means no
for
more
this.
spoilers. So
No
if you
more.
want to put like if you Hark want to add in like a little thing post production that says here skip to here for end of plot and moving on to other things
No.
instead.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
No. But I did want to talk about the specific topics in general.
Mm.
Like for example, let's address. I want to start by addressing some of the reactions that many of the players are having in the internets, are being very vocal about in the internets, as far as their gripes about this game.
Mm.
Because I specifically went to this game blindly. Like, I didn't want to read any reviews. I didn't want to read anyone else's opinions. I just wanted to judge for myself how I felt about this game without being influenced in either direction, either the
Yeah.
fanboys or the gripes. I wanted to decide for myself, and I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
happy I did. I'm so happy I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I still haven't
Yeah.
actually read. Go ahead.
I have to agree with you in this case because I'm in Europe. So the way the release
Hmm.
date worked is that in America, you got it 2 days before we did.
Sure. Hmm.
2 full days of seeing my feed just light up with Andromeda videos and not being able to watch them, not being
Yeah, I
able to
know.
look at anything, any
I know.
reviews. Like, I had to avoid your video because I was like, I'm not going to watch it yet. I'm going to wait
Yeah, yeah.
until Andromeda is
Yes.
out and I played it myself and all that.
Yes. Yes.
I streamed it for 8 or 9 hours the day it released. Then I basically sat down here and went, you know what? That wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. Like all of these videos about the hate
Yeah.
that you see, I didn't even watch any videos. All I saw was Andromeda massive failure, and
Yeah.
mass plus 40k, 40 like $1 million equals Andromeda, and I'm like, oh god, everyone's hating this game. Facial animations suck, characters suck, gameplay sucks. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You're just overreacting.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I like the only thing that I actually saw predominantly, because it's hard to avoid it. I haven't read
Mm.
any actual articles, but it's sort of hard to avoid some of the very vocal things online talking about the facial animations. I think that is the forefront of the criticism. There's other criticisms, but I think that is the major
Yeah.
thing. And I'm sitting here like, if the facial animations is like the worst thing of all, that's pretty good.
You're
Like
being very picky in that case.
in the grand scheme of things, if that's the biggest thing that the players as a whole are complaining about, that's nothing, in my opinion. Because I
Yeah.
play this
Like,
game not because. Go ahead.
yeah. No, what I was going to say was that I explained this to a friend of mine because he was like, "Oh, the animations suck. Why is that?" And I'm like, "It's because you cannot motion capture that many people in the facial structure.
Hmm.
So many people talking, so many different faces, alien faces, human faces. You cannot motion capture all of that, which means
Right.
that the animations are done by hand, which means
Yeah.
that they aren't going to look as nice as, say,
Yeah.
Death Stranding, because that's highly advanced motion capture 4K technology that's specifically designed to capture faces of humans. There are
Right.
no such things as Turians as far as we know in real life, which means you
Right.
cannot motion capture them, which means it will not look as good.
Right. And I
You know?
do. The irony is, in one of my earlier episodes, I think I was on the Nexus when this happened. I actually
Mm.
made a comment about how good and improved I thought the facial animations were. And keep in mind, though, that this is, again, without me not knowing any. I didn't know at the time that I recorded that
Mm.
people are having issues with the facial animation. I had zero clue. So this wasn't me like trying to fanboy and say, "Oh, what are you talking about? The facial animations were great." No, this is just me blind completely making an
Mm.
observation of a specific. There was a specific scene, I think, in the dialogue, and I just like that facial animation was really good. They certainly
Mm.
improved and upped their game in facial animation without knowing anything
Yeah.
about what the public was feeling. And so when I started
Mm.
hearing about the facial animation stuff, I was like, I didn't really notice it that much, or to the point that it would really cause that much of a big deal, in my opinion. That it would
Well, the one thing that I
overshadow
am
everything else.
the things that I'm definitely noticing in the facial animations is that the aliens' faces look a lot better. Turian faces look a lot better.
Sure.
They look a lot more smooth and edged in some cases. Like
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
all the time I spent talking with Kandros, he just looked so much more alive than the Turians in Mass Effect
Yes,
One and Two,
I
and to
agree.
some degree
Yes.
Three.
Yes.
Especially with all the female Turians about, you see a lot of like female
Right.
Turians in this game a lot more than you did in One, Two, and Three. You only saw one in the entire trilogy. That was Nyreen. You met her
Right.
for like 2 hours and she died. It just looks
Right.
a lot better. They look a lot smoother.
Yeah.
The eyes distinctly pop out more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Solarians look a lot smoother. They look a lot more like
Yes.
a snake or a fish that's evolved.
Their glowing armor is
Angarans look pretty
awesome.
good.
I love
Oh
their
yeah,
glowing
like
glowing
Angarans look
armors.
pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
Too, for a
Yeah. Yeah.
completely new design race. The Saris are humans that are blue, so they looked good since day one anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I don't understand the like why so many people are upset at the game, but what my explanation is for the people like me who are genuinely enjoying and loving the game, we're too busy enjoying and loving the game. So much so that we're not going to spend our time writing on the forums. We're playing the game, enjoying it, versus
yeah,
other people who
that's what
have.
happens. That's what happens, right? When it comes
Yeah,
to things like this, you see all these
yeah,
people who are enjoying the game are too busy playing it to like defend the game or to
right,
say, it's not this bad. I haven't had
right,
time to make a view. I haven't had time to like even so much as like made
yeah,
chatting with someone about Mass Effect Andromeda,
yeah,
because everyone
exactly.
else I know doesn't play video games anymore. Everyone at my workspace is like older than me by like at least 10 years, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to play video games as much anymore
Mm-hmm.
because they either have
Mm-hmm.
kids or they have girlfriends or they have
Yeah,
boyfriends.
or they have girlfriends.
They
Yeah, go
have
ahead.
um yeah, I'm single. Hey. Basically, it's definitely a case of uh to defend it yet, but I genuinely think that when the reviewers start coming out, like Angry Joe releases his review, and uh John Lawson releases their review, and Total Biscuit did a review I think today. I genuinely think that it will come to light that it's not as bad as people say it is.
Yeah, yeah,
It's definitely not Mass Effect 2 hype and BioWare amazingness, but it's distinctly not a 2 or 3 out of 10. It's more like a 7, 8, 9,
yeah.
I'd say. So far, anyway.
Yeah, I can't judge it yet, but so far I am enjoying it just as much as I enjoyed Mass Effect 2 when I played it
Mm.
personally.
Well, if you had to
Um,
ballpark a number between 1 and 10, 5 being average, 1 being Right Hell Retribution, and 10 being Mass Effect 2, what would it be?
at this moment, I would give it a. At this moment, I'd give it like an 8.5 to a 9. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm
7,
I'm
8,
really
9.
loving it
I
a lot.
genuinely, I genuinely think, right, at the end of the day, it'll be a 7, 8, or 9. It's just that not
Yeah,
people were expecting a straight home run, 10
yeah,
out of 10. Okay, it's not
yeah.
going to be that.
Yeah,
The
I love it.
most of the team that BioWare and EA, by extension, put on this are completely new to developing open world RPG adventure games. There are
Yeah,
some old people, right, from the original BioWare staff and stuff like that, but these are mostly new developers. And if the worst
yeah,
they can do is make the facial animations not look as pretty as you expected, I think they
yeah.
did a pretty damn good job.
That's a pretty good.
You know?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
It definitely looks like they put in a lot of effort into this game,
yeah.
and I think that
And
it paid off.
distinctly, yeah, I genuinely think that they did a good job, and I genuinely think that when people
Yeah,
start to realize it's not as bad as it seems, it's just
yeah.
like people are still
I
salty about
think
Mass Effect 3 and stuff. You know,
yes, I think that's it. I think a lot of people are still salty about Mass Effect 3, and so they're coming into this game, not giving it the chance that it probably deserves.
yeah, there was
So
actually a video
yeah,
that I saw. Didn't watch. It was called Mass Effect Andromeda, why it was doomed from the start, and it's mostly because
right.
Mass Effect 3's ending was so bad, and the trilogy
Yeah,
in general was just so revered that like it was just a
yeah,
case of no matter what you do with it, no matter how great it was
yeah.
going to be, people are going to berate it and
Yes.
not like it as much.
I Yeah, I'm not saying though that if anyone who's watching, I'm not saying though that if you don't like this game, if it really isn't your cup of tea, like I'm not saying at all that your
Oh,
opinion is
oh,
valid, not at all.
like I
But what
entirely
I am,
understand why people wouldn't like this game. It's very in your
yes,
face. Like things are thrown at you constantly. There's
yeah,
so many missions to do within the first 5 to 10 hours of the game.
right,
Like
right,
it just sort of feels overwhelming, and I can understand why people just go, "No, the game isn't for me. There's so much to do." It's
yeah,
like walking to the hinterlands for the first time and just seeing all this open space and going,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. To be fair though, I did not feel that EOS was Hinterlands 2.0.
EOS isn't Hinterlands 2.0 to start, and it definitely doesn't turn into that at the end. But it
Yeah,
definitely feels a lot more accessible because at least in this game you have a vehicle you can drive around
that
in.
you can drive around. Yeah, yeah,
Dragon Age, you're walking
um,
everywhere, and you can't quick travel, you can't fast travel, but at the very least, if you have a force station
very
near your
easily.
objective, you can get there
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, yeah.
It's not as bad. It's distinctly not
Um,
as bad.
Yeah. So far, yeah. So far, I'm personally loving the game. I think I think I'm giving it a very fair chance. And if you don't like the game,
Mm,
that's perfectly fine. I just feel that, you know, think very carefully why you don't love the game, and
mm.
um, and that's it. Just think very carefully why, if it really is, if you actually giving the game a fair shake.
Well, let me put it
Um,
this way, right? Even if you don't love the game, we love you all the same.
Yes, we love you all the same, even if you don't like the game. I mean,
Yeah.
Lord knows there's tons of games out there that I played that I was like, it's good, but I don't enjoy it as much as most people.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
case in
yeah.
point, Undertale, case in point, The Last of Us. I know that makes a lot of people gasp, but no, I thought The Last of Us was okay. It was just okay.
You're looking forward to Last of Us 2? I expect you to play it now for PS4.
I, I mean, yeah, I, I, I wouldn't say that I am at all like excited for it. I'm not excited
Mm.
for it. If I have
But
the
you're looking forward
time,
to it. It'd be nice to play it the very same. Nice to see how
yeah,
Ellie and all evolves from there.
yeah,
I
it's
can
nice
understand
to
that.
know. Yeah, it's more like I'm curious as to what happens. I'm curious to know what happens. And but I'd be like the difference between me looking forward to Andromeda versus me looking forward to The Last of Us is like no contest at all
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I can understand. I definitely see where you're
um,
coming from in that sense. But yeah,
so
it's not as bad
um,
as everyone says it is. If you're scared about
yeah,
buying the game, if you loved Dragon Age Inquisition, and if you love Mass Effect in general, you will love this game.
yeah, yeah. Give it a chance. Just go in and
Like, if you
just
don't want to buy a copy, borrow off someone who you know has a copy.
right.
Like just literally do. Like, I have a physical
Yeah.
copy here. Some days I don't play it because I'm like, I want to play something else. I'll borrow it
Yeah.
to a friend. I'll loan it to a friend for a day and see what he thinks of it.
Yeah.
It's
The
entirely.
one the one thing about this game that I really don't like, and I don't fully understand. Well, I understand why the developers tried to do this, but I feel like they didn't have to and still was able to get what they wanted out of it. Is that you cannot really pause the combat. I mean, yes, you can bring up the I guess the UI that shows the profiles or
Yeah, like
whatever.
the profiles and your
Yes,
equipment.
yes, you can do that, but that's not. It's not the type
Windows only.
of yes, because I am not the reason why I play Dragon Age and Mass Effect is because I am not a fast-paced action shooter player. I'm not.
Mhm.
I have to pause the game. I have to click on the little icons to activate my powers because I don't. Hark doesn't do hotkeys. My hotkeyness is awful. Like I will try to activate a power and I'll
Yeah,
either miss the key or press a different key, and so that is my biggest frustration with this game is that I don't know
yeah.
why the developers thought it was a good idea to remove that feature because if they really I know the argument is they wanted the game to be smoother, they wanted to be faster, they wanted the combat to be less clunkier. And I said, you could have just kept the pause in there and people who wanted their experience to be more real time could just ignore the pauses feature altogether and just treat it like an
You
action
see,
shooter. But for you know,
Hark. This is where I point out that Dragon Age Inquisition had that exactly in it, and it's like it's
hmm
literally that. It's right there. It's literally a case of you could just port it from one series to the other. But
yeah,
I can see where they're going with it. They wanted to make it a more fast-paced third-person shooter, and they did that. You can't deny the fact
they
that
did.
it
They
worked.
succeeded.
Yeah, it
But
worked.
people who started with Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3
Mm.
who not only, you know, who not only enjoyed that feature but kind of depended on that feature, you know, cuz
Yeah.
I feel like you can be more tactical. You can be a lot more tactical if you can have a pause feature. Um
It's like Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 versus Fallout 4 because that's no longer stops time; it just slows it.
yeah. I was a
In a way, you could argue they could have done that instead. They could have slowed down
They
time
could
instead
have
of stopped.
slowed it down time instead.
But
I was that I would not be as bad.
mm,
And eventually I got used to the Fallout's like VAT system, but it's yeah, that's my biggest complaint of the game. And it so far it hasn't been that much of an issue, but I'm earlier on. I feel like once I get further into the game and the difficulty starts to jump up, I might
I'm
have
playing.
to
I won't lie to you. I'm
uh-huh.
playing on hardcore, and I've died
hmm
several times, largely because I was
Okay.
being stupid.
Okay.
And I thought my rider was invincible, but he's not.
Yeah.
I'm used to playing a sentinel. I'm used to having like 1,500 shields and like
Yeah.
600 health and being the tank. But in this game, your shields start out at like 250 and you have 500 health. That's literally it.
Yeah. Uh
Everyone else in the squad has more than you. Literally, you are the
yeah.
squishiest character in this game. I'm playing
Yeah.
on hardcore. It's difficult. It's crushing. I wouldn't
Okay.
say it's like playing Doom on ultra hard on like
Yeah.
nightmare
So
mode.
yeah.
I'll say this much. I think you'll manage it on normal
Yeah,
because if you're
I've been trying.
using
I've
yeah,
I've died a few times already, but like I don't think I've ever died twice in a row with a specific
I
combat.
have
I think I always managed it. Okay. I think so
I have
so far I think I'm okay. But it's just
yeah.
very frustrating.
On EOS when he came across the first fiend, I died there a lot because there's just so much to
Mhm.
deal with and so early on. You've got your fiend and you've got like two squads of Ket to deal with. That killed me a few
Mhm.
times. One of the
Mhm.
Volts killed me a few times. Remnant in general are very hard to deal with because their beam weapons just
Yeah.
constantly keep at you if you're not quick enough at killing them.
Yeah.
In general, I feel hardcore is the harder difficult is a good difficulty for me because I'm used to fast paced shooters. And, I
Yeah.
play Call of
Yeah.
Duty, play
Yeah, yeah.
Battlefield, I play
Which is
Rainbow,
good. Um
that kind of thing.
but
I
I
genuinely feel like it's good, but I can see why someone who is used to the
yeah.
pause mechanic and doing all that would
Yeah.
play it on normal. and
Yes,
keep it to that. You know what I mean?
keep it that way. Yeah, I can't. There are people like me who are out there who just we're not fast paced players, and I think it frustrates me that I can't be more efficient in combat. Because I want to use um, my overload to get rid of the shields, and I want to use my flamethrower when somebody has a armor, for example, and I like my reaction time is not good enough that I can do that efficiently, and it just frustrates me because I'm like, I
Mm.
got these powers so I could be tactical, but I can't because my fingers are not tapping in the keys at the
Well,
right moment. I'm just so overwhelmed and overloaded with this combat.
well,
So,
just to show you something here, right? This is how the power system works on the console. That's one
mhm.
power.
Yeah,
Literally, it's a
maybe
case
if
of you
I,
press that button, you press that button, press them together. That's it.
yeah,
You know,
maybe if I had
maybe
a
you could consider
controller.
Steam controller or getting. I know you have a PS4, so maybe getting a PS4 controller and plugging it in would work. Um, Support is like on PC, but I do know that on this it's a lot easier for me because I'm used
Yeah,
to controllers. I've used controllers my entire life. It's literally just a case of one button
right.
press. I hold
I
down one button, I charge up my overload, I
Yeah,
button, hit
I'll have to
Lance.
look into
You
that.
know, it's easy enough.
Yeah, maybe I'll try the PS4 controller, and that might be easier because I am better at controllers way more than I am with the keyboard and mouse.
I remember
So
during the first episode watching you like try to scan, try to hit the G key, and you're like, how you to
yeah,
look at the screen
I
and
am
look down.
constantly looking down. I am constantly because I get my
Yeah, yeah,
fingers,
mm.
and you would think
Yeah. I
I'd
can
be
understand
able
that.
to. You think I'd be more savvy about this because I am a computer engineer, but even me, I'm like, where's the one key? Where's the two key? Okay, it's over there.
I'm a writer, and I'm like this the whole time. I'm like looking this way while I'm chatting to someone, and I'm typing because I'm just used to it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So, but
definitely.
yeah, like I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that. It definitely does feel
Yeah,
like it's less tactical and much more twitch
yeah,
movement, especially
yeah.
with the evade now instead of just a duck roll.
Yes.
It's a straight up just it's a dart across the screen.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, apart from that though, I think that they managed to make it a lot more fast paced, a lot smoother. Combat works
Yeah.
very well. The
Yeah.
explosions look pretty.
Hmm.
The detonations look really good. Have you got a
Hmm.
tech detonation yet?
Yeah, I have. I
Tech
have
detonations and all that.
because well, it's easy for me because I have one power that's a primer and two powers that it's a detonator or something along those lines.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I can detonate my
Here's
own.
a quick little hint for you, right? If you have overload and if you have shield drain on the same button, you hit them with the overload first, then the shield drain, and and it detonates.
That's really neat. That's very,
So
very cool.
specifically detonators, some detonators can ignite other detonators. So if you charge an overload and you hit them with it, then you hit them with a shield drain, you activate a tech. So it's pretty cool like that. There's
Yeah,
some
yeah.
interesting little things like that. That's just something I came
Hmm.
across because I was fighting. I think it was a fiend, and I was just like, let's hit it with one thing and hit it with another, and I'm like, oh, that works. It's cool.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I guess that the combat is definitely something that they've improved for Mass Effect 2, 3, and
I do agree
it
with
just
that.
feels better. It just feels
It
better.
does. I just wish I could pause.
Weighty,
But other than that,
you know.
it's yeah.
The guns feel a lot more weighty when you shoot with like a Widow sniper rifle. It genuinely feels like you're shooting a 50 caliber rifle at someone.
Hmm.
The M8 Avenger and the M3 are still pea shooters. It definitely feels like a lot more
Yeah.
earthy, and definitely you feel like the
Yeah.
weapon is shooting in your hand, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I genuinely think that they've improved the combat enough that way I'm happy with it. You know, I genuinely
Yeah.
don't mind going into combat in this game.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I hated about going back to Mass Effect 1. The combat felt so
Oh.
stiff.
Hmm. Yeah. With the cover system
That
there.
was one
Yeah. No,
thing
I
that Mass Effect
understand
1,
totally.
yeah, it just feels so stiff and so old,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy how it changed now.
Gotcha. Well, Mikey, we're going into almost 2 hours now. So, is there any last minute things you want to talk about the game in general before we wrap things up?
Vetra's Bay.
Vetra's Bay. So she is who you're going after
Yeah.
right now? Okay.
Oh yeah. Like I legitimately was like, I flirted with her one time because I think totally in the time that you can talk to her, you can talk to her on the Nomad and sorry on the Tempest, and there's like that option. It's
Nice.
just like, do you have anything special? And it's just like she responds with, no, other than Sage, you know, the whole she's
Mm.
realizing he means if I have a boyfriend or girlfriend ticking in her head, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I don't really have all the time for it. And I responded with, well, if you don't have anyone to share it with, it doesn't really make it worth it. And she's just like, oh, we're romantic, eh? And I'm like, please,
Eh.
please, Vetra, just stop playing
Oh.
with my heartstrings. Gil is
Oh.
great. I love Gil
So
so much.
sweet.
Gil is so good. Gil is
You
just
love
like
who? I'm
that.
sorry.
Gil is just a bruh.
Oh,
I
I
love him.
love Gil. I love Gil. I don't want to
Yeah,
talk too much about Gil because, yeah.
you could literally sat there just chatting about him all day. But yeah, Gil is totally my dude. I love Gil. Gil is my poker buddy. He's
Oh,
not a boyfriend material as far as I'm concerned for Scott Ryder. Well, not Scott Ryder. His name is Dion Ryder. But
yes.
yeah, he's definitely cool. I like him. Suvi is distinctly interesting because she believes in
I like
God.
Suvi a lot.
I had
Yeah.
that conversation with her. Liam is just such a good dude. I love him so much.
Mm-hmm.
He invites you to sit on the couch and have a drink with him. He's so cool. Cora, I don't really like Cora like
Hmm.
the most because
Interesting. Okay.
she's a bit too by the book for me. She's a bit too like her character model looks old to me. Like she looks like she's in her mid 30s to late like early 40s, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I like older women, but you seem a little bit too stuck in your own ways. She's got a bit too much of Sari in her. I don't like any of these Sari characters because they're just blue humans with hair with strange tentacle hair. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I like a few of the Angara characters. Jal is cool. Drac is cool as well, but I don't think I've ever actually got the option to flirt with him at all. Then again, that
Yeah.
could just be because
Yeah.
he's old and he's just like, nah, I'm good. I've
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
everything, that kind of thing. Literally everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
anyone you think that so far Vetra has been the one plucking on my heartstrings the most? PB is
Yeah.
definitely PB is fun. PB is like the younger sister, but she's like centuries old. But yeah, she's like the younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
Eccentric, vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
definitely interesting to me. Um, who else?
I think that's. I mean, Kalajath, and then Doctor
Callow.
Lexi. Doctor
Well,
Lexi.
Lexi is
Cathero.
very. Lexi reminds me a lot of RPGs that I've played. She's very professional in her sense. I flirted with her just to see what would happen, and she's like, "Nah, I'm good. Keep it professional between me and you,"
Ah. Okay. Okay.
that kind of thing. Um, which is kind of strange considering I think in one of the trailers you see her and Mail Rider in a bed together, but still maybe something you just got to keep poking at. Um, Jal. Hmm. Jal is definitely someone who I could see my brother having a few drinks with, just relaxing with, maybe listen to some Angaran like folk
Mm-hmm.
metal or something. You know, 'Cause if I had to choose what kind of music my writer listens to, it's definitely like rock, metal, hard stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely got that kind of
Mm-hmm.
vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think that they're doing really well with the characters in this game. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
I'm super
I'm
excited to
attached.
learn about that as well.
I'm attached to Vetra already, even though I barely know her. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to hug you. You're just so adorable to me. Uh,
Oh yeah. I thought the same
she's
way. Like I.
also she's also 6'5".
Yeah.
That is one thing that
When
I do
I
like that they changed about the character models. Turians do look a lot taller now.
when I first met Vetra, I liked her instantly, and my instant reaction, like I said in my LP, was, man, it's gonna be super hard to keep my writer like gay because Vetra's pretty. It seems pretty awesome just from the 1-2 minutes that I met her. So you know,
See what I mean?
no, no, I know
Vector turns
exactly what you
people
mean.
straight.
Vetra turns people straight. Yeah, yeah,
Vector
that's
turns
true.
Gil turns back to gayness because he's just like you cannot leave this behind.
Yes.
But yeah, it's genuinely awesome. I love the characters. They've managed to do so well.
Yeah. Cool, Mikey. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this. And
Oh,
maybe
no
we'll get a
problem.
chance to do this again very in the near future. All right, well, guys, thank you for watching, and hopefully you're enjoying the Let's Play. And maybe we'll see Mikey again sometime in the near future, just checking in and talking about the game, what we thought, our thoughts on the game so far. So I will talk to you
Hmm.
guys next time. Until then, love yourselves and love each other.
See you, gentlemen.